Hello, hello, hello. Hello, everyone. Let me know if you can hear me well. Hello, the geek update. Sorry, was about to call you Greek. Hello, Lobo Rebentado. How are you, brother? I hope that you've been doing fine. I leave for 5 days. I come back and the daily trend is broken. What have you guys been doing? What have you guys been doing? We can't leave for a few days anymore to celebrate the birth of a new nephew, and you come back and you guys have butchered the market. Not cool, boys. Not cool. Yes, can hear you fine. All right. Perfect. Crystal clear. We are doing fine, but not BTC. Yeah. We're gonna discuss that. We have, I would say 45 minutes. Unfortunately, I don't have too much time today for this stream. For the guys who joined from the Haven, I will be streaming again later this week, very likely Thursday afternoon, I would say. Maybe tomorrow and Thursday, but not 100% certain. And for the next public stream, it should be next week. So I'm going to be streaming a little bit more during the next few days. I took last week off because I have a new nephew that came to this world. A new Bitcoiner is born. So I had to drive a little bit back to south of France to see the family. So I have not been doing much in the market over the past week. In any cases, I don't think I would have done too much. For those who are in the Haven or for those who were here for the last public stream, you should know that on Bitcoin for me, the daily 200 EMA was the main upside target short term. That it was the place to secure some profits. I was then waiting to see if we had a daily 200 EMA daily trend compression before making any kind of decision. It's possible that being AFK, I did not beat it that daily trend retest, and therefore it has done me great. And in any cases, when it comes to swing alts long, whether it's the VVV long or the Zcash long, in both places, profits have been well secured. And in any cases, I don't want to rush into compounding, even if those daily trend retests right now are appealing, especially when I see those kind of lower time frame development from Zcash, for example. I was very tempted when I came back yesterday and I saw these retest on Zcash. I was very tempted to compound, but I made myself the promise to stick to daily time frame as much as possible. It's been doing me fantastic over the past few weeks, whether it's on Bitcoin or on the main swings I took on ads, and it's been a much better balance for me with everything happening in my life lately. So very tempted to do so. For the guys in the oven, I made a little post yesterday. You probably felt just off of my update yesterday that I was a little bit tempted to compound when I said that we had some nice structure on both Zcash and VVV after nice retracements. Some H for 100 MA defense into compression. Usually there can be setups on lower time frame that I would be inclined to focus on, but again, we're gonna get back to both of these later in the stream. We're gonna start with Bitcoin, obviously. But yeah, as I was AFK, as I was saying, I didn't do much. I didn't miss much. I don't think I would have traded that much. I took a stop on a 1/3 long attempt on Morpho, which was a setup that we waited for quite some time. I remember when we covered ZRO in the last public stream, I think we made these charts, and I remember maybe I actually shared the charts on CT. Let me check. I think I did, and you will see why I want to discuss it, because when it should be on CT somewhere. I remember covering Morpho at some point. Maybe I'm tripping. But I keep forgetting that you cannot look for things on Twitter because their search function is abyssal. Okay, I have the tweet. So yeah, this is what we covered on Morpho, and I think it was the last public stream, if I'm not tripping. We had this. I don't know if it. Okay, we had this written on the chart. So this was the plan that we had late April, and as you can see, waited quite some time, decided to go for the retest. When it was shared in the oven, I said that I was only going with 1/3 of the size, mostly because I was not. We didn't get a clean break through that must break level, and I was willing to beat the daily trend retests, but at the same time, no significant break of the resistance. So if I was willing to position, I wanted to do so only in partial position. But most importantly, when we covered it late April, we said we need to avoid what ZRO did on daily. And look at this chart. And this is what I was mentioning for ZRO. Fairly similar structure in the sense of slow grind up into the resistance, into failure to flip daily trend, and basically full reverse. So unfortunately, I took a loss on that, and that was basically the only trade for me over the past 7 days, I would say, 7-8 days. So yeah, that was just a quick update before we start everything. The main idea for today's stream, I want to discuss Bitcoin H4 daily, weekly. Maybe we can discuss Zcash and VV, even if I just cover them rapidly. And if we have a little bit more time and you have some chat requests, then I will do some. But as I said, I don't have too much time. I will be streaming again this week, so we will have opportunities to do some chat requests in any cases. And to be honest, maybe it's just me. Maybe I'm playing too defensive, but I do think that after a daily 200 MA tap into a daily trend break, you should be playing more defensive than anything else. I don't think you should be rushing too much too rapidly into new positions. I think at this point right now, your main focus should be whether Bitcoin manages to reclaim the daily trend or not. And reclaiming the daily trend would not necessarily mean that we should expect to see a turbo continuation of the uptrend, but at least it could mean that we chop a little bit around it while daily 200 MA, daily 100 MA compress a little bit instead of filling the gap down to daily 100 MA. So I think that the fight that we are seeing right now with 75.5 up to 78.5, something like this, is the main focus you should have short term. And whether it's flip resistance or not, or reclaimed, should be your main trigger if you are considering any new setups across the board. Unless, of course, you find some isolated trends, and if you are focused particularly on recent strong movers, which to me are hype, VVV, and Zcash. But yeah, on Bitcoin, the TLDR of update would be must reclaim 77.5 up to 78.5. Basically, it's the daily trend plus previous resistance. Reclaim it. Maybe we go for daily 200 EMA again. Maybe we just chop around it. In any cases, would be more encouraging than flipping it resistance. At the opposite, of course, flip it resistance. And I think we fill the gap down to daily 100 EMA. Maybe not as low as it is right now. I would expect it to continue to catch up a little bit after the recent uptrend. But in any cases, if we see a retest of the low 70s plus daily 100 EMA, and basically what was for more than a month a strong region of resistance, if bulls can't step in that place, in that region, then we will see us all in July, basically, for a ideally summer illiquid bottom or something like this. But yeah, so on daily, if you have to leave the stream right now, and if you have to leave keeping one thing in mind, it's that fight. It's 77.5, 78.5. If you want to play a little bit more conservative, you can go all the way up to 79 as a confirmation and as a proper strength. But in any cases, that's your main goal. If we go into H4, the situation right now for me is a potential H4 EMMA compression. I won't go into details of the EMMA compressions. If you have been watching the streams, if you are in the Haven, I've been spamming you guys with EMMA compressions over the past few weeks and over the past couple of years on Bitcoin. So you know the basics. H4 300 EMA must hold, H4 200 EMA in the middle, likely disrespected, and H4 100 EMA and H4 100 EMA as must break, basically. So I'm not trying to focus too much on lower time frame for Bitcoin, but in the short term, if we come for the retest of H4 300 EMA, this is the time you pray that some bulls are stepping in. Otherwise, I think we fill the gap to daily 100 EMA. And if we have enough strength to break the H4 downtrend, which is the same one since 80.5, plus a H4 200 EMA, I think we come back for a retest of H4 100 EMA above. And then whether we compress or not, we will see. But I think EMMA wise, we are looking like a potential H4 EMMA compression. So I think you can set some alerts in the H4 300 EMA region, above H4 200 EMA and H4 trend at H4 100 EMA, and do nothing until one of these alerts is triggered, basically. I think you have a scalp long opportunity in the H4 300 EMA region. If you want to go for something like this, I would do so with reduced size. Beat the retest, wait to see how it goes. Cut if close below, plus H4 trend, catch down with price. You have probably you can have some sort of a scalp on the break of H4 trend and H4 100 EMA, H4 200 EMA. Depends where H4 100 EMA is if/when it happens. If it was during the next few hours, I think that the setup would be good enough risk reward wise. But if we take longer to do so and H4 100 EMA is lower, it gets less and less interesting, basically. And okay, I'm sorry guys, I'm speed running things a little bit on Bitcoin, but again, as I said, I don't have too much time. And yeah, if you guys want us to do a little bit of chat requests, I need to speed things up a little bit. Again, in any cases, nothing too new in terms of concept and approaches. You guys are well aware of the EMMA compression patterns and things like this. And while I do the weekly time frame, if you guys have any chat requests, don't hesitate to shoot. I would imagine that I'm gonna get some ZEC, maybe VVV, maybe hype. So I will cover these three in priority. And if you have a few more, we will cover them by the end of the stream. Now the weekly time frame, which, as you guys know, is my main focus when it comes to my main bears on the market, whether I'm a cautious bull, cautious bear bull, and the main, historically for me, focusing on the weekly trends and weekly downtrend in bear market has always been a very good way of fading bear market rallies, plus flipping BAs not at bottoms but near bottoms during bear market. And you guys know this chart. It's the same one we've had for the past 3 months now on the Bitcoin weekly time frame. Still the same thing. Once again, an EMA compression approach, this time on the weekly. To me, a weekly close above weekly 100 MA plus this gray box, so basically above 90k, and I think we can get excited. But for now, the move that we've seen is yet another weekly downtrend retest, which for now has denied us. The good thing is that we bounced from weekly 200 EMA all the way up to weekly 32 EMA. Of course, it's daily 200 EMA retest. So that's nice. It's better than just diving straight to the lows. But yeah, weekly downtrend retests until proven otherwise, basically. And as a reminder, when I see this chart, to me, the 2 main obvious trades that I would be willing to go for would be a long on a weekly trend plus weekly 100 MA retests, a little bit like we did, for example, at the breakout of the last bear market plus retest of the 40k on the retest of weekly trend above weekly 100 MA, or like post-COVID, etc., etc. Or, and this one, I would be more comfortable with this long than the second one I'm going to discuss. The second one would be more of a buy and pray situation, basically. And the second one would be buying in the weekly 300 MA region, and ideally a deviation below, basically. A little bit like we did during last bear market. I'm not saying that it has to happen. I'm not saying that because we've had a weekly compression during last bear market, it has to be respected this time. All I'm saying is that EMA wise in my system, when I'm playing EMA compressions, the main obvious longs for me are on breakout of the EMA compression, like we did on Zcash recently. EMA compression, daily 100 MA broken, we come for the retest of the trend defended, we beat the second retest, send. So that would be this long in this example. And otherwise buying the extreme, which is 300 MA below, as we discussed on H4. These would be the only 2 longs that I would have in mind short term. Not short term, I mean higher time frame. And this one I would very likely feel extremely uncomfortable taking it, basically. Because in this one, I feel like my invalidation is much cleaner. If you take this long, basically your invalidation is a failure to flip weekly 100 MA weekly trends. So it's a fairly clean invalidation to have. In this one, if you don't know how far we can get below weekly 300 MA, basically, and you take the risk of being wicked out or whatever. So if I was to go for this setup, I would likely enter only partially first and then see how things develop. And I would probably shit myself if we do like last time where we deviated for a month, 2 months below the, 2 months, a little bit more than 2 months below weekly 300 MA. So yeah, so we are not quite there yet, but the main update on the weekly time frame is that we've got our bounce off of weekly 200 MA that we were expecting to see, or at least hoping to see, if I'm speaking for myself, into weekly downtrend retests and rejection. So pretty clean, pretty clean. So yeah, that's about it for Bitcoin. So if I give a small summary, weekly downtrend retests, breakthrough weekly downtrend plus weekly 100 MA, and you can get excited. On the daily, the main fight is to reclaim daily trend and the 77.5 up to 78.5, 79. Manage to do so. Maybe we come for another retest of daily 200 MA, or at the very least, we could just chop fast around it while we have some compression happening. And if flip resistance after the nice trend that we've had, then the system says that you should be expecting the next gap fill, which would be down to daily 100 MA, which is in nice confluence now with massive period of resistance from March to early May, and therefore a big confluence for bulls to step in, basically. Okay, and on H4, even if it's not much of a focus for me, you have another case of a potential H4 EMMA compression. All right, let's move on to some chat requests. So I'm not gonna take more than the one you guys asked on the chat, because otherwise I won't have time to cover them all. But I've seen Monad, CC, I haven't looked at CC in a while. It's going to be a good opportunity. Ondo, I haven't looked at Ondo in a while, but I've seen it pushing lately. And FIDA. I'm going to cover all of these. And that will be good enough for today. That will be good enough for today. While we do the chat request, as usual, we keep an eye on the top right corner. We keep an eye on SPX particularly. I didn't talk about SPX, but complete madness, of course. EMMA compression, come for daily 300 MA, daily 300 MA retested, defended into turbo V-shaped reversal. If only that was us, right? If only that was us, but pretty nuts. But for those watching SPX, fighting close to fighting for daily trend retests, it's probably the best focus to have on SPX. Whether this gets defended or not, you have some continuation versus chop fest / retest lower. But yeah, gonna set some alerts down to daily 32 EMA on SPX, just in case. All right, so I'm gonna start with Zcash and VVV because they're gonna be rapid, and I shared some updates for them already on CT if you want to check Zcash and VVV. So Zcash and VVV were the two main swings alt that I've had over the past few weeks in the Haven, and no changes since last update. I still have a third running, and my main focus remains daily trend retests. As I said at the beginning of the stream, I was extremely tempted yesterday to compound on Zcash on the break of H4 trend plus H4 100 MA retests. If you did so, I think it was a very clean setup to focus on. But as I said, I've been only focused on daily for Zcash, and overall across the board, it did me good. I don't think I should force anything else, so I'm gonna stick to the daily time frame. I'm adding FARC because I missed it in the messages. And yeah, so for Zcash, for me, no changes for now. I don't have any new compounding plan, but what I would want to see to compound would be daily trends tightening up a little bit more. Basically, the gap you see right now between daily 13 and daily 32 EMA to be smaller a little bit. You can see what on the retest we longed, things were much tighter, and this likely comes from some consolidation at the high a little bit. The main reason for me to want to see this is because it's in terms of invalidation. If I'm longing daily 13 EMA right now and my invalidation is below daily trends, it's a fairly wide invalidation, right? And of course, I can try to bid all the way down to daily 32 EMA and it's gonna reduce my average, but still the invalidation is super wide. While if we get some sort of consolidation at the highs while the daily trend tightens a little bit more, I can go for a compounding that has a much tighter invalidation. So for me, I'm gonna stick to the daily time frame for now, even if lower time frame is very tempting. And I'm gonna stick to the 1/3 position left I have, and I'm gonna wait to see if daily trend continues to get defended, if it tightens up a little bit more. And basically until then, all I do is trail my stop up on the rest of the position as the daily trend develops. I could have it much tighter, much closer to the daily time frame, the daily trends, but considering we already paid ourselves quite nicely, I'm moving it slowly, basically. And that's about it for Zcash. It's still, to me, and this is what I updated in the event, is that I have not touched it, and I barely watched it for the last 12 days. So basically, since the last time, since the moment we took profits, the last profits. But now that it's back at retesting daily trends, now that daily trend is catching up with price, I am starting to monitor Zcash closely again, and I am starting to think about if and how I would be willing to compound. I just think that giving it a little bit more time sounds like a good thing. And let's assume that it doesn't give me my ideal daily compression into continuation, for example, for compounding. Then so be it. I still have a third running and we will get another opportunity. Maybe that will be a signal for us that we need to move from daily to H4. If we don't get a daily trend that gets fully retested / compresses a little bit more, and if only daily 13 EMA is defended, then to me it will be a signal that the trend is strong, and maybe if I want to have an entry for compounding, I will have to move from the daily to the H4 time frame. A little bit like we did at the end of last run, at the end of the run last year, where initially we were focused on daily 13 EMA retests, and when things started to accelerate, we chased setup off of H1 and H4 trends to capture the end of the run. And it's likely going to be, that would be the same approach basically. So for now, no major changes. I'm letting things develop, especially with Bitcoin fighting for its daily trend. I don't feel the rush. And everything that I just said, you can apply it to VVV. It's the exact same idea. I'm basically just trading my stops as the daily trend develops. As it's retesting daily trends, I am starting to monitor it closely, but I don't yet have a plan for a compounding just yet. And just like on Zcash, ideally I would want to see the daily trend a little bit more tightened for the exact same reason, to have a much tighter invalidation, etc., etc. But once again, I am interested in VVV after basically not touching it since the last manual take profits. But yeah, the approach for both, that I think I can summarize the approach on Zcash and VVV by what I usually say, which is daily trend focus until it doesn't work anymore. And maybe a precision that I could say, and maybe that I could add in my latest update on in the Haven, is that if any compounding, likely to only re-enter half of profits taken. The reason I'm doing that and not compounding fully, and I already did that on VVV on the last setup, is more because of my worries when it comes to Bitcoin and to the weekly downtrend retest, etc. And the second reason, and I think it's something I discussed in the Haven particularly, is that I am very comfortable with the size I have left on both in terms of whether I have to give back some profits. Let's assume that there is no daily trend continuation and the rest of my position is stopped. I am fine with that in terms of what's left in size and the amount of UPNL that I'm going to give back. And at the same time, if it just keeps pumping, I'm very happy with the size that I have left too. So if I'm willing to compound, I'm fine doing so with not my entire profits and basically just taking things not too retardedly. Okay, so that's for Zcash and VVV. I don't know if you guys have questions regarding these two. If you count these two, you probably outperform a shitload of people in the market, so congrats. Stick to the daily time frame, stick to the daily trends until it doesn't work anymore, basically. And when / if daily trends are gone, you take your full profits, you sit back, you set some alerts, and you wait again. But yeah, very happy with this. Morpho, I already covered Morpho at the beginning of the stream, but got stopped out on Morpho last week for a third of the position, likely just going to let it develop. Let's move on to the chat requests. Hype. Beast of a move. I think right now, if you're focused on Zeg, VVV, Hype, you probably are focused on the good list. personally, I am infinitely more comfortable trading Zcash and VVV when it comes to my system and my approach of markets. It's simple EMA compressions into daily trend retests, daily trend continuation, while the hype chart is a little bit more chaotic. There is no clean daily trends. When we lose the daily trend, we don't fully retrace into daily EMAs. It's the second time that I get cooked, basically. When we lost daily trend over here, I was bidding there, never came for the retests. When we lost daily trend over here, I was bidding there, never came for the retests. So maybe, to me at least, I find it infinitely easier to trade VVV and Zcash than hype. But hype, probably on lower time frame trades and scalps, has probably been a banger for a lot of people. Because of what I said, maybe if hype was a little bit cleaner to trade, and if hype was defending daily trend a little bit better, I would say that from here, any kind of retests of this region like we've had yesterday, so confluence of this entire consolidation plus daily trend, would be a long. But again, it hasn't particularly been clean, so maybe just blast through and then reclaim it instantly. But maybe it's the exception of my updates, in the sense that on hype, maybe you want to focus more on H4 on daily than H4. So let's take a look at hype. H4. Not even cleaner to be honest, but yeah, if we keep things extremely simple, it's pretty much the same thought process. You have the confluence of these highs, these two resistance, H4 trend catching up. If you're looking to long hype, in my system at least, the setup that makes the more sense is a setup like this. Confluence of previous resistance plus H4 trends. The main interrogation is where to place your stops. Maybe you want to play it more passively with some stops below H1 200 MA, but at the same time, it hasn't been respecting it much lately. But in any case, the main setup I see is this one, to be honest. Back to all-time high. I've been surprised by the amount of hope I've seen on my feed when I came back from my break. People, maybe it's because we now have some sort of a Solana X hype war or something like this. With the Phoenix DEX. Whoever uses that. But yeah, in any cases, okay. I'm gonna set some alerts for myself if we see these retests. In a world where fuck off. In a world where Bitcoin goes to daily 100 MA. Okay, we can do the chat requests. These three were the main ones on my watch list, mostly because they are, I think, the only 3 alts that I'm willing to trade, or that I would be willing to trade. Let's start with Fatcoin. What was the question on Fatcoin? What do you think about Fat and Monad? So Fatcoin, for those who have been watching the streams, you know that for me, I have been reluctant to trade Fatcoin, mostly because of the weekly downtrend. And my main idea was that if/when we manage to break through weekly 13 EMA, maybe we can fill a gap and retest all the way up to weekly 32 EMA, exactly like Bitcoin did, basically. broke through weekly 13 EMA, instantly went for weekly 32. But unfortunately for Fatcoin, it couldn't even do that. Fatcoin is one of those alts who have been lagging and have now fully retraced the pump. And just for that, I would personally not be interested in trading it. I'm not saying that it's dead. I'm not saying that it cannot bounce, especially if the rest of the market bounces. But if I have to allocate any kind of risk on the market, why would I do it on something that has lagged, failed to catch up, and is back below daily trend and at the lows, when I can try to beat places where you have daily uptrends? It's been, I know, Pop, that you are in the event, so and that you are watching my stream, so you know that it's been my main approach, my main philosophy over the past few weeks. Every time we did some chart request in the event, very often the conclusion was, I'm not saying that it looks bad, but why do you want to buy this instead of buying where you have clean daily uptrends? And I feel like it's a little bit of the same thing right now. I would have had a much different opinion, of course, if it managed to defend this. And then I think you had an opportunity for a gap fill to daily for 200 EMA, but it couldn't even do that. So at least on the daily, this looks like trash to me. Maybe on lower time frame, no. If you are a Fatcoin believer and you want to buy and you want to have some Fatcoin exposure, I would say at the very least wait for the H4 downtrend to be broken. If / when the H4 downtrend is broken, you have an opportunity for a bounce. But right now you would be buying in a H1, H4 daily, 3D, weekly, monthly downtrend. Any time frame that exists, basically. And yeah, that's about it. I also feel like, to me, coins like Fatcoin I treat Fatcoin like XRP. It's another thing that I've said many times. XRP is one of those coins where I don't care to have any kind of exposure to it, ever. However, it's always in my watch list, because if / when it starts to trend, usually it has a short window to do so, but a very aggressive one. So I don't care to be looking at what XRP does every day, but if / when it starts trending, I want to be sure that I'm trading it. And you can see it on the charts, like the very sudden and aggressive moves. But most of the time, it's just complete trash. I want to approach Fatcoin the same way. If / when it manages to have any kind of daily trend that gets defended for longer than a week, or if / when it manages to break and flip its weekly downtrend, which has been the same one since $1 basically, then I will very likely be interested in Fatcoin again. And it probably means that we are going to be back in a much more degenerate market conditions. Until then, I just don't see it. So my thoughts about Fatcoin is that it's a laggard that already fully retraced the recent pump. And if you absolutely want to long it, then you should at least wait for the break of H4 downtrend. And if you are more of a Fatcoin believer, if you have any kind of fundamental analysis for it, then waiting for weekly downtrend break is probably a very good approach too. So my thought is that keep scanning. Keep scanning. Okay, next one was Monad. If I'm not mistaken. Yeah, Monad. Monad, another one that I've failed multiple times to trade, as I discussed in recent streams. Basically, the two coins that have been the most frustrating for me over the past few weeks have been Hype and Monad. Because I basically missed all the moves on both, basically. It's back at week. It's back at daily 100 MA. It's what Jay Sanchala said in the chat. Monad daily 100 MA looks interesting. It's the main argument left for Monad, I would say. There is one thing that I don't like on this chart, and it's how the daily trend has been disrespected. We have a nice daily uptrend, finds the top, lose daily trend, reclaim it, get denied by the top again. Which kind of makes me think that if maybe we get daily trend defense, but daily 100 MA defense, but I would not be surprised if this is the kind of price action that happens after that. Money is unfortunate, could have been Zek. Yes, could have, yeah. And if my grandma had wheels, it would be a bike. But yeah, if you are bullish Monad, yeah, I would say this is probably the place you want to see some defense. Daily 100 MA, some nice horizontal confluence. Your main counter argument to do so for me is the recent disrespect of daily trends, which to me could mean more chop fest than anything else, and the fact that it's the second retest of the region and not the first tap into it. I don't think it's a perfect rule, but I usually like to play these kind of retests on the first tap more than the second one, with a little bit of, if really bullish, why is it back there, basically. But if you tell me that you go for a setup like this, I would not think you're too crazy. I will not be taking it, and maybe bounces, and I keep saying again that I missed it, but I'm fine to take this risk. But yeah, probably a setup like this. Maybe you can perfect the setup and the execution by letting the retest happen, wait for H4 trend to break, and then trigger. That way, at least you have a good argument to long, instead of just hoping that it gets defended. Main counter arguments to beat these daily 100 MA retests. Recent disrespect for daily trends. Second retests. Daily 100 MA X key daily horizontal retests. Personally, gonna let it do the retests, but execution wise, can let retest happen and wait for H4 downtrend to be broken, the trigger to give it a shot. Happy, how is it going? Very good. Very, very good. It's sunny. It's good. Family is growing. Life is good. Life is good. We've had a nice bear market rally. We've had nice isolated trends on alts. Not quite sure what people are crying about. Not the easiest condition on earth, but I think we've had a few opportunities in the market. Things are resetting as they are meant to do in those conditions. Okay, so that's my main take about Monad. Jay Sanchala. Do you look for an intern? I'm trying to improve myself, and thanks for the words months ago. I'm very sorry if I don't remember our conversation. Maybe I just don't recognize your pseudonym. But no, I'm not looking for interns. Particularly not when I'm in very defensive mode, as I've been over the past few months, and particularly not when I'm mostly trading daily time frame, as I've done. So no, not looking for interns. But I should be streaming more. I should be streaming more. So just hang around, and if you have any questions or things like this, don't hesitate to ask them. Of course, and as usual. Okay, so CC. Yeah, this was the last time I checked CC. I think it was in early March. I think it was more of a H4 approach. Yeah, I remember taking this and exiting after it started to disrespect H4 trends. And I was like, I think I got stopped once, gave it a second shot, and I was like, okay, I'm an idiot. I'm getting bullied for nothing. And I think it summarizes the situation quite well. So what did you say? You said, and can we look at CCH12 compression? CC has been the most revenue generating project so far and most close to trad feed giants. Okay, so we have a sparkle of fundamental analysis for it. Charts look a little bit chaotic on the daily at least, so I'm assuming, Jay, that's why you want me to take a look at H12. On the daily, not much for me to work with. We can see that the daily trend is completely disrespected. We're basically in a range. Most of the time, if I see a chart like this, I usually just don't want to participate. However, what I'm gonna do is set some alerts higher, basically. And I mean, of course, right? But I think in this particular case, I think we have a fairly clean horizontal level over here that we can highlight a little bit if you guys want, but maybe we can make bigger boxes. And yeah, so basically what I would really want to see on something like looks like this is that yeah, daily trend starting to curve up and being defended, basically. Which might sound absurdly obvious, right? But yeah, trendless market. I want to see some trends to participate. Goes without saying. But we're gonna take a look at H12. I already set some alerts. I was about to put some alerts to the downside, but it's extremely unlikely that it's a coin that I'm willing to bid lower or to short it. So I would place my odds to buy this someday at higher prices than right now at 100%. More than if I have to trade it, I mean. But let's take a look at... okay, we want a chart with the most price action possible. Okay, yeah, I remember this one also. Let's take a look at H12 as Jay asked us. Okay. I understand the compression you're mentioning. This is not necessarily the kind of compression that I'm the most fan of, Jay Sanchala. I would have been extremely interested in CC on a strong reaction here. The fact that it came back for the retest and now has failed to defend the trend once again, and now more than a compression, the main thing I'm seeing EMA wise is all the main moving averages being flat. When I'm looking at a compression, and I think it's something we discussed with Krillin's stream, we did a duo stream in the Haven last week, and this is something that we discussed. It was, yeah, the kind of compressions that I like to focus on. The structure is like this. which makes sense when you think about it, because this is the kind of structure you're gonna get post strong trends, and while it resets. Again, we can use the Bitcoin daily example from past few months with last year compression with a structure like this, 2024 compression with similar structure, kind of in triangle, I would say, or just Zcash recently, of course, with the compression like this. And basically, what I'm trying to say is that the longer the compression takes to play out, the flatter the moving averages, the moving averages are, the less I'm interested to play it, the more I'm expecting more chop fest around it, basically, which would fit my view of it on the daily. So, and I would end up with the same conclusion that I just said, Jay, which would be, this is too choppy for me. It had the opportunity to get out of the compression a few times. It failed 2 times so far. Main moving averages are flat. I would expect chop fest more than anything else. Therefore, I'm more likely to be interested to buy this higher if/when we finally have a trend that gets defended. To me, it's too choppy, too trendless to have a strong opinion. I'm not saying it's gonna die. I'm not saying it can't pump. All I'm saying is that in my system, this doesn't fit any of the main setups that I'm usually looking for, which are EMA compression exit, trend following, and gap fills. There are no gap fills to chase. The compression is not clean enough, and we don't have a trend. So usually I see this chart, I move to the next one. But as you can see, it's on my watch list. And now that you told me that it had revenues and potential FA, I'm gonna put it a little bit higher in the watch list. I have set some alerts for it, and we'll see if we get back to it in the Haven in the next few weeks or not, few days to weeks. But yeah, I'm sticking to my first impression. So yeah, just keep in mind that I'm not saying it looks bad. I'm not saying it looks fantastic. All I'm saying is that if I respect my system and the chart is just not respecting any of my main setups, I just don't go for it. And this is particularly true in current market conditions and in a bear market. And especially after a time where I've had some troubles in the market, where I don't feel the most confident in myself, as it's been for the past few weeks. I'm trying more than ever not to force trades and to stick to setups that I have data on and that I know I can execute well. At the opposite, in a bull market, sometimes I will be taking setups that are less fitting to my system, but because the market tends to be much more forgivable. So yeah, for all these reasons, it's on the watch list, but I don't have a setup to discuss with you. What do you think about the 36 EMA? I think it's the EMA used often by hedge funds. I think that if you find a way to trade around it in your system and that it makes your execution easier, then you should focus on it. And this applies to anything else. I am a strong believer of the simpler the better, even if sometimes when you see my chart you could think that things are complicated, but the truth is that it's really just horizontal lines and a couple of trend indicators. But in general, whatever you do in the market, whether you are using the 75 EMA or moon phases or 200 data, if at the end of the day you are making money doing it that way, then stick to it. The only thing I would say, and it's funny because it's also something that I discussed yesterday in the Haven. I don't think I will find the. I don't know if I will find the messages. Yeah, this is what I was saying yesterday about trading another time frame. So it's not like another EMA, but it's like, the question I had was, do you check the 3D charts or things like this? And what I was saying, and it's true also for 36 EMA, 75 EMA, whatever, is that, as I said, if you find a way to make it work consistently, then stick to it. But if you are moving from one indicator to another, or from one time frame to another, to find excuses to keep your setups running or to fit your BAs, then you're going to get smashed, basically. It's a mistake I know everyone in this chat and everyone in trading has already done and maybe still do, is okay, maybe if I flip to the 12-hour time frame, I will find an excuse for my BAs to remain intact, while the usual way I do it is telling me not to. And it can be true by adding an indicator or by looking for the ticker on CT in the search bar, hoping to find some bullish or bearish propaganda. Just avoid to do so. But yeah, it's a friendly reminder. And I say that because I've done that many times, and I know everyone does it at some point. Adding a diagonal line while usually you don't use diagonals, moving from one time frame to another until you find a place where the trend is defended or whatever. Yeah, stick to your system. Stick to your system, and if it doesn't work, then change. But don't try to fit your BAs by changing the approach. Hey Pierre, a mindset question. Did you have any challenges becoming a profitable trader, and how did you overcome them? I think saying any challenges is a very understatement. So yes, extremely. And I still do struggle to be consistently profitable all year long. I have good periods, I have bad periods. I would say that how did I overcome them? I have become infinitely better at accepting losses, at cutting losses, at reducing the amount of trades I take, and to respect my system. And it's probably the most basic advice, and I probably say that every stream, but I will say it again. But personally, as a mid-curve trader, as someone that you cannot consider as a talented trader, I'm not your CT Chad multi-millionaire scalper 15 minutes or giga brain. I am the representative of the mid-curve trader, and for people like us, journaling is the cheat code. It's the cheat code for so many reasons, and for me the main one is that you will avoid taking setups if you take the time to write them before taking them, because if it's a good setup you will stick to it, and it's good, you will take this one anyway. But if it's a setup that you take because of FOMO, or if it's a setup you take off of the influence of someone else, most often they are not. By the time you write it down, if you're not a complete idiot, you realize it's a mistake, and maybe you're gonna take it anyway, and it's gonna be a mistake, but you're gonna reduce these mistakes. And also, journaling things helps you turning your what if into most often. Very often you're gonna be in a setup, and you're gonna be, and let's say that you don't have a stop, but you know that your invalidation was something, and this something happened, and you're gonna start telling yourself, okay, but what if this is the bottom? What if this is just a week? What if Sailor starts buying? What if, I don't know, what if Trump tacos? I don't know, any excuses. If you're in that situation, most often than not, you're doing a mistake, and you're gonna get wrecked. And journaling things helps you trust your invalidation infinitely more, because you know, and you have the data to know that most often your stops are there for a good reason. When I got stopped out of Morpho last week, initially I was only wicked out, and I was like, fuck, maybe it's just a deviation below the daily trend and it's gonna bounce, and I was wicked out. But no, I know that most often my invalidations are good, and I know that most often I should just stick to them. So how did I overcome them? Hard grind, ego being absolutely crushed more times than I would admit it, journaling, and yeah, staying humble, accepting that I'm not the next giga chat from CT, sticking to my system, keeping things as simple as possible. Most often they are not sticking to higher time frame. And yeah, accepting that I'm not a hero, that I'm not going to be selling tops, that I'm not going to be buying turbo bottoms, and that small wins in the end win. But yeah, more than any challenges, being a consistent, and it's still some, I insist on that, it's still something that I fight with every day. In a bull market, I'm gonna be profitable all year long. In a bear market, I'm fighting to be profitable every month. Clearly, 100%. This month, with Zcash, VVV, a little bit of Bitcoin scalp, I've had a very good month. And maybe I'm gonna bank on this month's results to stay stable through the bear markets, and by playing extremely defensively. But I'm not gonna pretend that I am High Stake Capital or Loma or CBS or whoever. I never pretended that I am, and I'm not gonna start today. But I do know that I got infinitely better at trading through the years by everything that I told you. Just, I was at least stopping where I'm done fighting every day. I'm not fighting every day anymore. And it's also maybe one of the reasons that I make more money than I used to and more consistently. It's also because I trade less. I focus on on less but better setups, ones that I know that I'm not going to fuck up the execution. And just that only is already a very good improvement. Pierre, hope the summer is hot in Lyon this year. I'm not living in Lyon anymore. I moved away. But most often you should not hope for the summer to be hot in Lyon. If you're in the city, you should hope that the summer is mid, because hot summer can be unbearable in Lyon. Clearly. But it's a sweet place to be for the summer. It's usually more empty. Everyone is in south of France. All right, let's speedrun things because I'm turbo late again. Ondo, what was the question for Ondo? Can you look at Ondo daily? H4 looks interesting to me. Ondo daily, I think a little bit sad that it couldn't flip daily 200 MA, of course, but at the same time, it had such a parabolic move that I'm not too surprised. I'm seeing it a little bit like Zcash and VVV, Lobo, in the sense that they retesting daily trends, so it's interesting, but at the same time, I think I would prefer to see it compress a little bit more, maybe retest the daily trend a few more times. Even as I said for Zcash, even just for the quality of the setup you take for compounding. You take a setup here, your invalidation is turbo wide. You take a setup after, I'm not saying it has to happen, but you take a setup after a little bit more compression, you can have a much tighter setup. So I would, if I was willing to play Ondo, I would probably do something like this. Ondo, however, is in my list of coins that I don't want to trade anymore. It has, I initially had a lot of success trading Ondo in the early days, and I think this is the last trade I took on Ondo. And then it bullied me hard. It has some interesting FA, I think, because it's usually one of the first coin you think about when you think about RWA. But yeah. And yeah, on H4, I understand what you mean, Lobo. Retest of H4 100 MA. It's not one that I would beat because the usual EMMA rule, right? If you have an exit of EMMA compression or the beginning of it, you want to see the trend defended. So I would let this retest happen. If H4 trend is defended, then I think you can beat H4 trend retests after that. So same idea than for Zec and VVV. Retesting daily trend equals interesting, but would prefer a tighter retest / so smaller gap between daily 13 EMA and daily 32 EMA. Potential scalp on lower time frame with H4 above 1, H4 100 EMA, but in my opinion, let this retest happen first. And if H4 trends defend it, then you have a shot. I'm speedrunning things a little bit because I'm very late. I was supposed to leave 20 minutes ago. But I keep yapping as usual. BT is not enjoying the session. Maybe I need to shut the stream off before we kill Bitcoin. It might go for the H4 300 retest. That's gonna be an interesting retest on H4. Unfortunately, on the daily, not too surprised. We discussed it at the beginning of the stream. We can't be too surprised. Loss of daily trend, yada yada. And FIDA. Yikes. What did you say about FIDA, Lobo? And FIDA daily H4 as well. FIDA looks untradeable to me. With my system at least, just by the way the daily trend has been completely disrespected. Very nasty. When I see this, I'm usually a little bit discouraged to trade the chart because I see this and I'm like, okay, I can be interested in beating that, right? It's previous resistance denied a few times and we come for the retest from above. But because of the nature of FIDA and how it's been extremely weaky, I would not know where to place my stop. Would I feel safe with a stop below these lows? I don't think so. Neither here, neither here. So I can understand why you would be interested in a coin that comes for this kind of retest, Lobo. But personally, I would not be able to position myself. I would not feel comfortable with any stops that I would have on a chart that looks like this on H4. If you have the balls to trade that and the approach to have an invalidation, you know you can trust. Maybe it's an interesting coin, but to me, this is way too chaotic. Me from 2020 would be interested. Me today, not so much. And on H4, maybe on, we just checked H4. H4. Even on H4, I cannot justify longing this. It's the first retest of H4 trend. So I will tell you the same thing I said before, Lobo, is that potentially interesting coin, like a few we discussed today, like CC, like Monad with the daily 100 MA retests. But in a market where Bitcoin just gave a weekly downtrend retests, lost the daily trend, if I really want to put some risk on the table, I would much rather do it on places where I have clear daily uptrends. Maybe it's the last time they get defended. Maybe it's the last retest before the daily trend are broken and it retraces and it's the top for both. But at least I know that I can justify longing these with an invalidation I will trust. And therefore I will minimize the chances of me doing some dumb mistakes execution-wise. So this has been my main approach, my main thought process, and I'm gonna stick to it. All right, boys, I'm gonna shut the stream off. I will share these charts in my Telegram channel for those who want to check the charts again. Charts covered on stream. TLDR, ZEC, VVV, HYPE are the most interesting to me. Rest is meh. And I will share these in the chat request section also in the Haven for the Haven boys. Charts covered. And I will see you guys for the next stream. The next public stream should be next week. I'm not exactly certain what day yet, but I will let you guys know on Twitter and on Telegram. And for the Haven boys, I will be very likely streaming. I will be streaming on Thursday afternoon, Thursday and maybe Friday. I'm not 100% certain yet, but I will let you guys know as usual. Thanks everyone for joining, and I will see you guys.